all my little weird tricks that transfer from watercolor to underglaze and being able to layer more.
Caitie, welcome to Shaping Your Pottery, and share with me what's a commonly held belief in the pottery world that you passionately disagree with.
See, this is like one of my only questions that I was like struggling with because I don't know if I have any. Like, I mean, I don't know if it's widely believed that it's really hard to paint with underglaze, so I feel like that would be my number one, but I don't know if that many people think that. So, but yeah, that's probably, you can do a lot of detailed painting with underglaze, and a lot of people assume that's not possible. Would probably be my answer. Yeah.
Love that. So tell me the story how you got started making pottery.
So I've always wanted to try it, and I thought it looked amazing. And I've always had a home studio for doing my watercolor paintings and my commission. And I have two rambunctious boys and I needed to get out of the house. And there was a studio that opened very close to me when we were living in McKinney, Texas. And so I just signed up for it and kind of went for it and completely became like, I don't even think loved it. It was a good enough word, but like completely obsessed. So that was the push. My husband did get me a wheel for Christmas, like one of the cheap Amazon ones. And I'm pretty like confident with most artistic, mediums. And I was like, I went into it super confident and be like, oh, this is awesome. I'm going to be so good at this. And I like massively failed. And I was like, this is like one of those times where like, I think I actually need some professional instruction. So, but yeah, that's how we started.
I love it. I still use my Amazon wheel all the time. Like it's just, that's my go-to right now.
I love it. Yeah, I have a whole setup for my kiddos, and they have the wheel for theirs, the Amazon one. So it's like even shorter, so it fits them.
Yep. Absolutely love that. So as you mentioned, before becoming a ceramic artist, you were a watercolor artist. Tell me more about this.
Yeah, I have been a watercolor artist for years and years. I think actually since high school, which is insane. And I've always done commissions. I didn't do it as like my sole job until after kids, but I was using this specific watercolor company forever. And around COVID time, I had a friend reach out that wanted to do online tutorials. And so we did this whole little free watercolor class. And one of my other friends that was doing this like online course too did like messaged me about the watercolor company that I used that was, just to answer your question, I got sidetracked. But they said they're like, hey, they're looking for a social media person and someone to teach their online classes for YouTube. You should do it. And I got it, which was crazy. So they're just as like weird and like it's a super cute family. They're called Fearless Watercolors. So I feel like that's when I started taking my watercolors a little bit more professionally, but I've always done it. I've done it for like 20 years with just the same company, and I'm just completely obsessed with them and their products, and they've had the same formula since like the 1800s or something. They're so cool. So, but yeah, I've always done like commissions and small things. I used to do live painting at music festivals for, just trying to, that was pre-pottery.
At the moment, you decided to focus more on pottery and less on watercolor.
That's kind of hard because when we move a lot for work, and so we planned on moving. We moved to McKinney, and we moved from, where did we move from? We moved from California to Texas, and I didn't have my studio set up yet, and I was kind of taking a break from editing while we were moving and like filming for their content and their YouTube tutorials. And so like, I felt like if I were just to jump right back into that, I needed to do like, I think I would have went a little crazy. So I really needed that, like, get out of the house push to go to the studio. So I feel like, pottery was like instant. So like, I think it switched probably right when we moved and I wasn't doing the tutorials and then being in the studio. I was just like, oh damn. Okay, fine. So like, I get it. I get what everyone's talking about. So like, this is what's going to be now.
Absolutely love it. So how did being a watercolor artist help you with your own pottery?
This is huge. I feel like anybody that is a watercolor artist that's never tried underglaze before, like almost like 90% of the techniques that you use for watercolor completely translate into underglaze. Like the transparency aspect of it, just like the way that you layer, like even like, saturating certain areas to try to lift off some colors. Like it's like insane how much it translates. The only difference is that when you're working with watercolors, like as soon as the layer dries, you can see exactly what it's there. But like underglaze has like the opacity like changes and it becomes like opaque once it dries. So you can't see the underneath layers. So I kind of like tell people like it's still like watercolors, but it looks like gouache. Am I saying that right? Gouache. Until after firing. And then once you put your clear underglaze over it, you see all of the layers again, exactly how you would with watercolor. And it's just like, you have to envision the final product, but the steps are the same. So yeah, it's really cool. So everything that I've done that like I used to do, it just like switches over with some changes. Underglaze is weird and firing temperatures like, do crazy things and change stuff, but the painting steps are very similar.
Absolutely love that. Shape Nation, if you have experience with watercolor or maybe even other art forms, you can translate that back into your own pottery and make something completely original to you. Absolutely love that. So let's talk about your pottery. Tell me the story, how you started making the pottery that you make today.
I feel like I just finished up a couple like smaller painted things and they were cute and I like them. They're still painted pieces, but I did a Jinx cup for myself just to see like how many layers of underglaze and like what actually happens. And like, I really just made it for myself and it like blew up. And I'm like, oh wow, there's like a lot of people that like this. Like that's weird. And kind of it really just started with that one cup and it's just, it went crazy. Kind of crazy.
What were you feeling when a lot more attention started coming towards your cup?
Nervous? I don't know. I feel like there's like this like weird hate about like social media and internet, but like I feel like we move so much that like I really value my online community. And I feel like in general, the gaming and anime community is really weird and funky and like usually like a good level of like understanding humans. So they're probably a little less scary. Like I see other things and they get like a lot of like really negative comments for like no reason. And I feel like there's just maybe not as much of that in that community. And then also with like the pottery community is pretty like supportive and so I feel pretty lucky with as much more traction as it's getting. Like everyone's pretty awesome. So
Absolutely love that. So as you just mentioned, you are inspired by anime, video games, and everything neon. How do these things impact the way you make your pottery?
I feel like anime is a great way to start underglaze painting because there's not like a lot of variation in color. Like they have like one skin tone color and then one shadow skin tone color and like equally like their hair has like two tones. So like I feel starting out and I was trying to figure out like the underglaze and what it does and things like that. Like I kind of stuck to more of the anime pieces just because they were a little bit easier to translate and not having to mix a ton of colors. And then when I started that Jinx cup was like the first one where I had more of my like normal style of painting for watercolor and also like video game art is insane and it just looks, they use very purposeful like brush strokes and highlighted areas and really dramatic and like really bright colors and it's just really striking. And I was like, I want to figure out how to do that on a cup. And I kind of just went from there. And then the whole neon glaze, I went down like this like rabbit hole of how to make the most insanely bright colored glazes that like, as close to neon as I could get. And it all has to do with underglaze. So like that kind of was having layers of underglaze underneath floating glazes. So it's, you have this like reactive color to the underglaze on top and just trying to getting it as bright and bold, as ridiculous as possible. And like every time a cup would come out of the kiln and it was just like, oh my God. So the level of excitement just like motivates me, and just, yeah, neon colors make me really happy. So
Absolutely love that. How many layers are you layering underglazes onto your pots?
is the question, because if you do too many, it will bubble and you will get like just like wart looking awful pieces, and just it just is so devastating. But when you do like a heavy handed, it's like 2 to 3. But if you layer it softly with a watercolor brush, you could do like 5 to 6. And then if you thin out the watercolor or the underglaze a little bit more to like a watercolor consistency, you could get like 5 to 7. But you have to take very like careful planning, because if you go over, and then once you get it out of the kiln, and then it's just like warts on the face, or like, everything, all that time spent is gone. Probably at the most, like 6 is usually, and just building the layers and building the depth and different colors. So,
That is absolutely incredible. The amount of detail you spend on your pots is incredible.
oh yeah, no, they take forever, forever. But
Absolutely
yeah,
love
worth
that.
it.
So you spent the last 2 years learning how to paint underglaze in the style of your watercolor art, and you turned it into 2 courses. Tell me more about this.
Well, I originally wanted them to be one course, and then I just realized that it was entirely too much information. And the time that probably the first year was understanding why things would fuck up, because you would spend like hours on something and you would like match the colors perfectly, and then you would get them out of the kiln. And like, I'm really like, I was confident in mixing colors, like with having all of my painting experience, and I would mix them the same way that I would with paint, and then they would change completely differently. Like some of the pinks would completely disappear. Other ones would like turn into like a soft, like muted tone. And I even like had this one painting that was so cool, and it was like from The Last Unicorn, and it was the princess, and she, instead of like a black outline, she had this like crimson outline, and it looked so cool and like soft. And when I got it out of the kiln, there was like, why does this look so weird? But like all of the crimson outline completely burned off in the kiln, and you were just like, why is this happening? So I did a color mixing chart and all these different saturation tests and different how they look with glaze and without glaze. And because a lot of times too, I wouldn't glaze a piece, because whenever you glaze it, it makes like a bigger difference in the color. And I just wanted to understand why. So like when I started doing this course and doing it in person too, like that was always the first step. It was to be like, okay, let's do saturation tests. We're going to do mixing charts. We're going to see what colors are going to work at the cone you're using. And like, if there's like some changes in the color, like some of them will start out that look like a really minty green, and then when you get them out of the kiln, they're like almost like this dark green. So it's really hard to mix that traditional style of like color theory and have them turn out the way that you want. So the whole first course is understanding color theory and saturation, and like how things change with the kiln that you're using in the different temperatures. So, and then the next course is the fun course where you do more of like the actual like painting and, all of the different little techniques and stuff. And I did a lot of, what's it called? In watercolor, it's called fluid. There you go. So I did like a lot of the masking fluid to mask off certain areas while you're working on different ones. And like, you could do the same thing, but with wax resist. And if you're painting in greenware, that whole area is like, yeah, there's just there's so many techniques that switch. So like the second course is like all my little weird tricks that transfer from watercolor to underglaze, and being able to layer more. And what do we do? We do the like portrait studies. There's a black and white monochrome portrait and then a color portrait, and how to mix like all the skin tones just with like underglaze. And yeah, but there's a lot of color theory too. So there's like undertones for skin tones and how to do muted colors. And there's color charts and mixing charts and color wheels. And yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot of information in them.
So you mentioned that you were trying to find a way to correctly mix the colors without them without the color changing, what advice would you give to people wanting to mix their own colors?
A mixing chart would be the first place to start. So there, I have my other one. I don't know if you could see it. It's up there, but it's like 20, I think it's like 16 colors by 16 colors. And in a traditional watercolor chart, it's the same diagonal system, but one side is more of a saturated watercolor side, and the other one is more of like a diluted or more water added. So for mine, they're the exact same on both sides, but one has the zinc-free clear glaze on top, and then the other side is left like raw underglaze, so it doesn't have a clear. But that's probably the most useful tool, just to be able to, like, if you're going to mix and you're trying to mix one color, that is the perfect place to start. And then like from that little swatch, you can like change it up a little bit. But yeah, it takes a lot of practice though. And some colors, I mean, yeah, they play nicer with other colors. And just having the chart would definitely be the first. Yeah, my recommendation would be that.
Absolutely love that. So what do you think are the 3 most common mistakes people make when using underglaze?
Saturation, for sure. If you want something to be fully opaque with one color, it needs to be 3 coats. I feel like that would be number 1. That's usually like the most. And then again, if you do too much, there will be bubbling. So not keeping track of your layers. So if you do more than the 3 coats, then you have the potential for it to bubble. Yeah. Mixing too dark. So most of the time too, even though the swatch from Amico or from whatever underglaze you're using, it looks a little bit lighter. And I feel like if you're trying to match a color, it's just a safe bet to lighten it a shade or two, and you'll have a closer to your desired result than like what actually happens. It's mostly, and I think too, a lot of times, like most of their swatches might be for like a cone 5. I have to check again. But I feel like when you do it at a higher temperature, it can change, and a little bit of a change, you might be like, why isn't it that color?
Absolutely love that. Shaping Nation, the 3 most common mistakes people make when using underglaze is 1, the saturation of the colors. 2 is keeping track of all the layers you are doing. And then 3 is mixing too dark. Try to avoid these mistakes if you can. Absolutely love that. Yeah. So something I love that you do is you started experimenting with slip casting. Tell me why you started doing this instead of just sticking to wheel throwing.
Did I start the first? I don't even know why I did the first one. I thought, I mean, now I know why I'm continuing to do it, but I don't even remember why I started.
So why are you continuing to do it?
Yeah, I was trying to think why. So I love wheel throwing, and it's amazing, and I think it relaxes me, and I have a lot of fun doing it. But my pieces take anywhere from 10 hours to 30 hours to paint. So it's doesn't leave a ton of time for doing wheel things as much as I would like. And then also, now that I have a home studio, I have to be able to fill up a kiln, and I don't want to just fire, like, you're going to put a lot of stress on your elements and all your things if you're just firing one piece in there and the temperature's just going crazy with it just not being full. So I feel like in the morning I could do like a little collection, like of all, I think I have like maybe 15 different pieces, slip casts, and while I'm painting, and I can kind of keep working and have some things to fill up the kiln, but also having something at a lower price point. And I'm equally as in love with my neon glazes, and I think they're really cool. So having a variety, but yeah, if I had unlimited amount of hours in the day, I probably would do all wheel thrown things. But I do love keeping my painting schedule, and that was what makes me the most happy. But I feel like those painted pieces kind of need to be on my wheel pieces just to kind of keep like that quality and like having like, I don't know. Yeah. I still think that slip casts are cool. And I've made some of my own slip casts too. And I've made like dragon eggs for my kids. And then I turn them into like goblets, and they're really cool. Like there's like unlimited options with flip casts that you can just do. And like, yeah, lower price point and playing around with neon glazes and not like having it's not as scary as like doing it on a thrown piece. It's just like, if it messes up, I'll just, slip cast a couple more and we'll see what happens. Like all of my glaze tests are on slip casted pieces because I could just like do, bang them out and while I'm still painting too. So yeah. Yeah.
I absolutely love that. Shaping Nation, don't be afraid to try slip casting or add slip casting into your arsenal because it can help you free up time to do other things.
Yes, absolutely.
So let's talk about the business side of pottery. Can you tell me about the moment when you decided to become a full-time potter?
Well, I feel like I I had like the moment when after my first drop and I'm like, yeah, I could do this. And then the second drop failed. So I was like, oh, maybe not. So I did a series of lady cups and they all had Underglaze tattoo designs drawn on them. And the first one was amazing. And I'm like, whoa, this can be like a real thing. And my husband even bought me like the whole thing for like the LLC and like bought me this cute little sign and like, or made a cute little sign. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. And then like the next, like a few months later when I did the second one, it just like flopped and it just, it didn't go as well as I hoped. So probably after that first Jinx Cup and then Riot Games reached out to me and asked me to do a promotion cup for one of their upcoming like new game releases. And I was like, oh, like, okay. And then like looking into that and having like like the whole like social media side of being like, another added revenue to pottery. And it kind of blew my mind. And then they reached out again for when they had another game and the new character was released and that and added with my commissions, which were progressing more and having like my schedule filled up a little bit more. And then also teaching my first Underglaze class at my last studio. So like at that point I was like, okay, like I think I need to get my kid into, preschool and I can take this seriously. And I got my first private studio instead of just a membership and like everything started to kind of like fall in line kind of right at the first time, like at the same time. And I was like, okay, like this could actually be a thing. So this is going good.
What were you feeling when Riot Games reached out to you to make a commission?
I was in shock. This is like they have the coolest games, and I'm like, what? Like, how is this real? Yeah, like just it's kind of scary. Like like you have to figure out what to charge and like what like it's just you have to learn. I mean, and I did do some of the social media for the watercolor company, so I knew how to edit and do some things. Not that social media made any freaking sense to me whatsoever because I like did their social media for a year and like their numbers didn't move at all and I felt like a total failure and I had no idea what I'm doing. And then just for like this huge company to be like, let's do this. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, okay. And then, then like the Google adventure, be like, how do I make a contract? And like, just like, nobody knows what they're doing. They're just they just figure it out as it's happening. So it was a lot of feelings. I was very excited, but yeah, I'm like, okay, we're just going to do it. Like, just don't think about it too much. Like talk to a few friends that have done similar things. Google adventures, YouTube Academy, and you just figure it out. So, yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about social media. Right now, what seems to work well for you with promoting your own pottery?
I mean, I feel like I have two separate groups right now. Like I feel like my anime and gamer community that just loves to see my, the pieces and with the music and having, those are like, well, yeah, like my commission people. And then the separate side of it after teaching the courses and now launching these two online courses like this, then there's like this whole other pottery side of it. So I don't know how it's going to go. I feel like this last few months have been switching more to a pottery following, which is so weird to say, but it's weird. It's all weird. So I feel like as I maybe transfer back, because now I'm back in my schedule going back to commissions and I'm curious to see how the audience, I don't even know these technical terms. I don't even know if it's going to switch or if it's going to be pretty split. But like, I feel like there's a pretty good, like, I kind of lose followers and then get more followers over here. And they're like, we don't want to see all this stuff. We want to see just this. But like, so I'm curious to see how it's going to go. What was the question?
It was what is working well on social media for you?
Social media is weird. And I feel like a lot of it has to do with luck and the algorithm. And I think like the main thing about what works best is being consistent. And eventually people are going to either like what they're saying because it relates to them and like, you know, their interests, like my commission side of it. They're all that video game, anime, and like having like the certain kind of music that like I love, that I'm obsessed with. That's what they like. And then like I have the whole other side of like the potters that like the step-by-step process and like the little tricks and like little helpful tips that they can do in their own pottery. So I feel like if there's a good split of both of those, it might work well for now. But yeah, I feel like until it's a lot of a weird algorithm, however it works, because I still don't get it. Yes.
Absolutely love that. So very quickly, let's talk about commissions. If someone wants to start doing their own commissions, what are the steps someone should take to make this reality?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say post about it and just, I mean, I feel like I've done commissions for a long time for watercolors, and it usually starts with people that you know that want something for friends and family. And I feel like the more you just kind of like get it out there that you're saying you're doing commissions and be like, when I first started, I would do like anything and everything, and which is fine, you know, like you gotta start somewhere, but like sometimes, you know, it's a little like nerve wracking. You don't want to paint the same kind of stuff over and over again. And then, yeah, the more you get your stuff out there and you let people know that you're doing commissions and filming the process, if you're talking specifically for like getting people from online, yeah, filming your process and like what goes into each thing, and people get to see like the level of like attention each piece gets, they kind of like see it as like, oh, this is actually a cool gift for somebody. Like, yeah, I could do this for somebody. And the interest and the value on your time, and then they see kind of goes up too. So
Absolutely love that. That was some excellent advice. Shaping Nation, if you're thinking about doing commissions, start with friends or family and then post a process about it online. And that way more people get eyes on your work and know that you're doing commissions. Some great advice right there.
That's really well with that. Yeah.
So let's talk about discovering your voice. Can you tell me about the moment when you knew you were heading in the right direction with your pottery?
I still feel like it goes back to that Jinx cup and just having all of the different design elements on it, that things that I enjoy and that I'm excited about. And for a long time too, I'm like if you do artwork around things that is in your environment. And like, I was like a stay-at-home mom for a few years, and I feel like I kind of like lost a little bit of that like funkiness of myself. And I thought, you know, I should be more chill mom, just like, oh, that's fine. We'll just, you know, go with the flow, whatever. And then, you know, having kids, and then they get really excited about things. And then like, you kind of like remember like, oh yeah, like I used to get really excited about, I used to love anime. Like, you know, like my watercolor pieces before I started working with the water company were really bright and crazy. And I went to like I did light painting at a lot of music festivals. And so like a lot of that was like, you know, kind of just really intense, like sacred geometry and just like really bright. Like they're not normal watercolor paintings. Like they have layers, like 4 to 5 layers of watercolor on each piece too, just like I do my pottery. And so like for a while, like after, you know, like we have a family now, we're not going to music festivals. We're not being all like wild and crazy and dancing all night. Like I felt like I kind of just like toned it down a little bit. And then after that Jinx cup, I was like, oh, she's back. Like, whatever. Like, I'm just going to make them as crazy as possible. And if anyone likes them, like, sure, great. But like, I love them. So like, and then, yeah, people like them. They love them and they want them. So yeah, it worked out.
I love that. Shape Nation, the most important thing when discovering your voice is whether you like your pottery or not, because that determines your voice. Absolutely love that.
Yeah.
So what would you say was your biggest obstacle when it came to finding your own voice?
Getting the Underglaze to do what I thought it was supposed to do. Basically, it's just like you have, you see it in like the greenware stage when I'm painting, and then all of a sudden, like, it just looked completely different by the time it was out of the fire. And I was like, oh, okay. And then, there's times you're like, this isn't going to work. And just keep doing it. And then, that was honestly the first time I did the big mixing charts, because I was like, I need to understand what the fuck's going on. How do I get this to work? Because I know it's possible. And I just need to know which part of it is messing this up. And after that, things are a little bit easier just because you have like that base, like your solid plan and foundation. And you're like, okay, I'm not going to use that electric blue. That electric blue is going to turn everything dark and it's going to overpower everything.
Absolutely love that. So you contribute your growth as an artist to finding a community of potters who are just as weird as you are. Tell me more about this.
Well, yeah, definitely. They're so weird and I love them so much. And I've never even met any of them. So I have an amazing community from my last studio, and they're amazing. And I even have a really close friend that flew all the way here to help me up my studio. And she's like my like diehard bestie that when I'm going to do my traveling workshops, I want to bring her and have her like, part of the whole thing because she's been there since day one. But I also have this online group of specifically Underglaze painters, and they added me pretty much around that same time. And there's some like, we're all different. Like we have all different ages and from all over different countries and everything. And it's just we're trying to figure out how to paint with Underglaze. And a lot of us are mostly the anime style, but there's other ones too. And we share each other's work on social media. We share like Underglaze tips. We have just, I don't know. I feel like they're like the best group of humans ever. And I just think it's hilarious that I've never met them. But yeah, I talk to them probably like once a day compared to like, family members and friends that I haven't talked to in weeks, so, but yeah, they're a valuable, I don't even know. They're great. We do a gift exchange around the holidays, and we send each other our, secret gift exchange cups, and they're just a wealth of information and support, and like literally anything that you could be like, I don't know how to ship international, and we just like put it in the group, and then there's like 5 replies instantly, just like try this one, like if this does it, and it just makes it a little less scary because they're all kind of in it for the same reasons and trying to figure it all out. And it's great. They're wonderful. Yeah.
Absolutely love that. Shaping Nation, one of the best things you could do for your pottery is to get around other weird people like yourself, because you're going to grow so much and you're all going to grow together and you're going to learn new techniques so much faster that way. Absolutely love that. And 100% agree.
Yeah. Well, and two, what I did was say, I move a lot. So I got really like anxious about leaving the studio that I was at. So it was a great studio, but like knowing that I had that other supportive group that was online, like made moving less scary too. It's like, you don't lose your community every time you move. And I was really nervous about that. And they're just always there because they're like, it's online. Yeah.
I love that. So now, what advice would you give to someone looking to discover their own unique voice with their pottery?
I would just try all of it. And it stuff excites you and you're just like really interested. And equally, if something like massively fails and it pisses you off and you're like determined to figure out how to like fix it, like that's probably the thing that's going to be the coolest. Like just having that that I hate you, but I'm going to figure that out. Like that's probably going to be the best thing. So, which is a lot of potteries like that. Like I thought, like I said, I thought it was going to be easy and it's not. And having that that like anger to like something, and you're just like, once you figure it out, it makes it like that much more exciting and rewarding. And so, like if it pisses you off, it's probably worth trying it again.
agree. And normally when I come across those moments and I finally succeed, I'm always giving you a big flip it off to the freaking cup because you're like, yes, finally.
Yes.
Absolutely love that.
Just keep making weird art and whatever makes you happy.
Absolutely love that. Caitie, it was wonderful chatting with you today. Where can my listeners go and learn more about you?
They can go on my Instagram, and I have a website as well. And then, those link up to my Thinkific account for my online courses. Don't go to TikTok. It's really boring over there. I forget to post stuff on that. It is there, but I forget about it.